everyone that signed up. And the numbers look great. Thank you so much for being part of this. So just a little bit about me. I'm an architect by background. I started as an electrician, and I now run something called Built by Us, which is a social enterprise. And our mission, our focus is to help to create a more inclusive built environment. And what does that mean? It means that we help to support people, diverse talent, to come into the industry, to progress their careers, and more recently to start their own businesses. And our focus is on everyone who's underrepresented in the construction sector. I think it's incredibly important that everyone has a voice in designing, in constructing, maintaining, and acting as custodians for the built environment. Space is important, the quality of our lives is incredibly important. Too important to leave it to a narrow group of people to make the decisions for us, which is why I think this conversation is so incredibly important too. The opportunity is now. We are facing a number of challenges, and our focus most recently has been on social justice, on health, and also the disproportionate impacts that these sorts of issues can have when you have a society that has extreme inequalities. And these are the kinds of things that we really need to be talking about, exploring, and taking action on. So I'm delighted that we are joined by Ben and Kuchenga, who are going to be having a conversation about many of these themes and so much more. And I'd like to hand over to Ben.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Hello, everybody. My name is Ben Hunt. I'm the BBC's LGBT correspondent. Because I've got a last-minute investigation out tomorrow, I've been dragged into work today. So I'm actually in the office still. So usually I'd have a really fabulous background with like my puppy there and everything. But today you've got desk computers and some chairs. So major apologies for that. But it's going to be a fabulous conversation, and thank you for joining us. So before we kick off, I'd just like, Kuchenga, can you just introduce yourself for us, please? Give us a good few words about who you are, what you do, what you're up to.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. Hiya. Yeah, great to be here. I'm Kuchenga. I'm a journalist and a writer, and I became really comfortable with calling myself an agitator rather than activist, because like feels like activists like don't have days off. Do you know what I mean? As it goes, and I definitely do. I prioritize rest as it goes. So yeah, I just like come up and like poke and then run away.
Good, it's good. It's necessary to take a break. I like that.
Yeah.
And what kind of things you've been up to recently then?
Gosh.
What have you been agitating?
Yeah, writing as a form of activism and agitation, boo. You know, I try to usher myself away from the responsive think piece. It's because like what I do, I write fiction. I'm writing my first novel right now about a young Black trans girl from North London who is mired, has a life that's mired in sexual scandal and drug addiction, but is on a mission to prove that she's a descendant of Admiral Horatio Nelson. So I'm doing the historical research and being assisted by the wonderful Professor Kate Williams, who's such an illustrious writer herself, and yes, that's been great. But yeah, what I try to do is creative nonfiction. I bring my whole literary self to the publications that how I've been blessed to be a part of, and I do write responsively. So yeah, if there's particularly anything that's pertaining to the lives of Black trans women, then I will step to the breach and say what needs to be said. However, like my intellectual taste is so broad and I'm super curious. So I've been really buoyed up by like the responses of like editors and cultural creators who are reaching out to me for like a wider range of things. Like last year at Charleston House, I wrote about Virginia Woolf's Orlando. That was really cool.
Okay.
Recently, Hannah Hutchings Giorgio of the Lucy Cavendish College, she has commissioned me to write about women in Dada. And so I've been writing, I'm planning to write more about Hannah Herc, who did a lot of collages during like the 20s, 30s and stuff. That's when I think that was her most notable period. And yeah, it's been wonderful. So I'm feeling quite liberated, super stimulated. Originally to write about women in Dada, and so I've been writing. I'm planning to write more about Hannah Hurd.
Oh, I can hear you again.
I can hear you again. That was
I was just like, what's going on?
You know what? I'm so glad, because like years ago I was so embarrassed at the sound of my own voice. And like now I'm like, oh, who's that? Who's that erudite young lady?
That was such an out-of-body experience.
I felt like Lady Grantham in Downton Abbey there. I was like, oh, excuse me, who is that?
You have a lovely voice, please. Anyway, the title of this is Black LGBT Lives Matter. So when you hear that title, what does that mean to you? What does it hit you with?
You know what? I was struck by something I saw. Someone paraphrased Bell Hooks saying, that, Black Lives Matter is just such a basic phrase. Like, of course they do. Can you believe that that's a question? It's rough, right? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, barely even got to reparations, barely got to the futurism side of things. Like, we're still at the My Life Matters bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's rough. But why are we compelled to say Black LGBTQIA lives matter at the present moment?
Mm-hmm.
It's because historically we have been sidelined, invisibilized, excommunicated, abandoned, erased, killed.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, the force of like all the work that we've done over the years, it just hasn't received the respect that it deserves. And so, obviously, with the Black Trans Lives Matter march that happened in London this past Saturday, and the Black Trans Lives Matter march that happened in Brooklyn, I think that was the 14th of June. I think it was a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we're hoping for is that this is a watershed moment where Black trans women specifically are not being killed in silence, that those who kill us aren't being let off without impunity, but also more generally that homophobia, transphobia, queerphobia is going to be rooted out in every possible way, that we are seeking to heal our collective consciousness. And so, we just won't be dismissed and shunted away like so many of our forebears were, whether that's, Bayard Rustin or Marsha P. Johnson, And also for me personally as well, I'm 34 years old and I've been involved in the voluntary sector and third sector for a long while. And that trail has actually had dirt kicked over it, to the point where someone who I was working with, who I don't have a fantastic relationship with anymore, but was able to, Kuchenga's quite new, to organising space and whatever. I was like, excuse me, do you know what I mean? To think, that I just just survived, by popping into John Lewis every once in a while. Like that's not that's not the story.
And what kind of things are you going through then? So you said you're feeling like shunted away, like things haven't been discussed. And what are these things that people are missing from being discussed, or what are they missing seeing?
What in reference to the
black, being trans, like all of that, like what are people missing, and what when we're now saying finally that Black lives and Black LGBT lives matter, what have they missed out on?
I mean, I want to reach for the historical scope. Okay, so like, I'm Jamaican and Zimbabwean. I was raised in a Pan-Africanist household, and so the evils of colonialism and the slave trades were omnipresent. I was very aware that our cultural legacy was fraught, tumultuous, but also one to be proud of. The schism that I found with me growing up was that because I would not, could not, refuse to masculinize in the way that was expected of me as my father's firstborn, I was just subjected to such intense violence. And that's the agenda that they have, you know, like whether it's, you know, clearly stated, explicitly stated, you know, I feel the crux of things really in those memes that are posted, you know, on certain shade room places, like, you know, like,
Certain shady parts of the internet.
you know, literally taking our language at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Literally, you couldn't find a synonym for shade. Anywho, but yeah, you know, those like memes, the you know, what would you do if your son came home dressed like this, and you know, like constantly like stoking the comment section, you know, for like Zaya Wade, you know, if that was my child, you know, I would subject them to some real violence. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't be just one beating, it would be a whole thing. And that was my life. I was that child. Do you know what I mean? So we already know like what the impact of violence being meted out on children in order to, you know, shove them back into that gender role, that makes, you know, heteronormativity makes sense. We know the outcome of that. It's, you know, it's substance abuse, it's
Trauma.
mental health, it's homelessness, it's, you know, so much money being spent on therapy that will not end. I mean, I'm fine, you know, like, I don't mind the fact that I'm committed to, you know, spiritual healing and stuff. And, you know, I'm an Oprah devotee. So I don't mind the fact that I can't ever really see myself, you know, stopping journaling and speaking to people and reaching out. But for me as a Black trans woman specifically, I just feel, you know, when we are thinking of our lives in pre-colonial Africa, like, were we really subjecting each other to the same level of violence? You know, like, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I can't. And yeah, I read Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart for the second time because yeah, I was part of the Galdem reading group rewriting the canon. And, you know, it's a short book. And I thought, you know, I must have missed something, because in the Igbo culture that it depicts, you know, there are undesirables, you know, like there are twins who were like, you know, left out, you know, to die. There's all sorts, do you know what I mean, that goes on in that book. And I was waiting for the queerphobic violence, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, no, of course, let's get rid of that one. Do you know what I mean? As it goes. But it didn't come. And so it's tragic because, you know, obviously the impact of colonialism, binary gender roles has been so virulent that they no longer even need to police our gender in the way that they started to. But it's encouraging, because if things weren't always like this, then they can be undone. We can unlearn everything that we were taught. I don't need to prove my humanity. I don't need to prove my productivity and my worth. Yeah, I'm comfortable. Was Otomare, the Black gay journalist, Otomare, in the advertisement for Black Pride, said that quote from James Baldwin, like, your crowns have already been paid for, bought and paid for. And I'm with that crowd, you know. I'm with the Toni Morrison, do you know what I mean? Racism is a distraction. Like, we've done it, we've proved it, do you know what I mean? We've got the Harvards and the Yales and the Oxbridges and whatever. I no longer feel the need to prove that I can be respectable. And, you know, I know that I'm wearing a cream jumper right now, so I'm clearly like not comfortable. I'm not put the respectability down a lot, but let me like lower it a bit, do you know what I mean? Just kind of like,
do what you need to do.
You know, I've still got it, Ben. I've still got it, guys.
Okay,
but,
I like
yeah,
that.
respectability in my house is dead. I'm wearing short shorts. Yeah. Okay.
Do what you need to do. I'm going to just remind people that there is going to be a Q&A portion with around like 15 minutes time. So let me just see if we've got Okay, we've got no questions so far, so get some questions into that box for Kuchenga, please. Let's move on. So I wondered actually, you know, the protests you were talking about, are you a protest kind of person? Would you go to those? Did you go to those various different protests that happened over the past month?
I'm not in the city, and there's a pandemic. I want a long, healthy life. So I also didn't receive any calls. But yeah, so
Interesting.
no, but also, yeah, no, I'm not in the city. Like, you know, kidding, kind of. So,
But why not? So this is an interesting conversation because I had some messages earlier today from people who were trying to get me to write a piece about activists or people that didn't go to the protests, who they would have expected to see at the protests. And I wonder if there's something around expected, like that expectancy that people kind of had for people who are already going through trauma, already experiencing these things, to actually almost show up for themselves. And I wondered if you want to talk a bit about that and like your response to people who would say, well, shame for not being there. Why weren't more Black people there fighting for Black trans lives? What do you think about that?
I do think that is a point. Yeah, Jason Akintoye said that on Twitter, and I wholeheartedly agree. Okay, so yeah, I think it is a shame that the march on Saturday did look at it. It was a bit paler than I expected or I would have hoped for. That's an issue, you know. Like I think in the UK, like we're really far behind when it comes to you know, that cross-cultural intersectional approach to social justice. It's just not, it's not at the same level that we need it to be. Do I have an opinion about those who don't go, who choose not to go? No, not really. I'm really encouraged actually by the current political moment, that those who have just had to get used to the fact that, you know, we will put our lives on the line for people who won't put their lives on the line for us. You know, Breonna Taylor was killed in March. It's because of, you know, Black women organizers on the ground that we are saying her name right now. You know, there isn't the same level of vim, excitement. You know, it's just, you know, they just don't get as excited about Black women's lives, Black LGBT lives, Black disabled lives. Like, we're just, you know, there is a clear hierarchy in who we organize for. As a result, for anyone who's in those aforementioned groups to say, you know what, I'm gonna rest. Do you know what I mean? I'm just, you lot, march for your own. Okay, literally, I'm sorry. I'm not a cisgender male. I'm not upholding the family. Do you know what I mean? Like, it goes, like, for some reason, unless you are a Black, straight, cisgender male, like, you're just not seen as contributing that much. But at the same time, you know, my DMs say otherwise.
Oh.
So I don't feel away. Like, yeah, I sleep really easily with how I apply my energy and effort, baby. Okay, like I don't have a problem with you know, giving my energy more to my writing, and also, like, I'm very grateful that everyone's, like, you know, having a little moment, you know, they're, you know, getting through their reading list and, you know, buying, you know, the appropriate books from independent Black bookshops and, you know, doing Callaway, you know, as it goes. Yeah, cookie collection as it goes. Hope they're stale. But for me, I feel like I'm here all year round. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's very easy to retweet. It's very easy to repost, whatever. But, you know, when you're down to your last £50 and your girlfriend just called you and she's got an empty fridge, okay, and you love her deeply and you can't go to sleep that night because she's hungry, okay, how is that not activism? Okay, how is that when you're like, you know, doing a bank transfer, 20 quid going from, like, marginalized person to marginalized person to marginalized person, you know, that for me is the crux of you know, what it means to look after each other and help each other survive and stuff. So yeah, don't get me wrong.
You're doing enough.
Yeah, but also, you know, as a scholar, you know, like I was so turned on when we did the French Revolution in A-level history, and you know, hearing about, you know, the French women marching to Versailles, you know, demanding bread and everything. I understand like what is historically contingent in, you know, liberation and what pushes the needle forward and stuff. I'm not going to diminish that. You know, I don't feel like that what's going on currently is just performative allyship. There is a lot of that going around. You know, we're just living in that age. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can blame it on the Kardashians or whatever, but you know, like we all love those clips we see. You know, I think one of my favorites was, you know, some like white woman in like West Hollywood or somewhere in Hollywood, you know, taking picture in front of like broken glass, you know, like waiting for the guy. Would you mind if I just took a picture as it goes? And, like,
and then she got straight back in her car.
Straight back in the car on the way back. Thanks, guys. BLM. You know, that killed me. Okay, like literally, like at that one moment, like the commodification of the current political moment, you know, capitalism is rapacious. So, you know,
but then what can people do? So anyone watching this, I think this is the tips.
They don't need to be. Do you know what I mean? They're all right. Do you know what I mean? They've got the reading list. They're doing it. Like literally, look at Gen Z. Okay, literally, they got Trump's rally like breezily. Okay, breezily. Okay, like, you know, sipping on their juice, you know, and yeah, destroying Trump's political dreams. Like, they're all right. I feel like we don't need to harry, like, you know, people get so panicked, you know, what do we need to do and whatever. Like, very little of current political organizing is new. And I feel like in terms of the language that's being discussed around like defunding the police and prison abolition and intersectionality and whatever, like, once again, we need to put respect on Black women's names. Like, you know, this Black feminist theory brought us to this point. There's Black philosophers, you know, Black feminist academics, Black feminist organizers that have given you the language to discuss defunding the police, to discuss a world after prisons, to discuss what we're going to do, you know, to get justice for people that isn't purely punitive. Okay, like what's beyond the carceral. Because, like, you know, I don't want to continue to tell generations that come, oh yeah, you just got to get used to sexual assault, love. Do you know what I mean? It's just part of life. You know, you just got to go over it. Do you know what I mean? You know, like, maybe you could tone it down. You know, I mean, you know, you've had your pride parades and everything, but, you know, maybe when you go to Sainsbury's and stuff, maybe you just don't want to wear that. Do you know what I mean? Just don't stoke it. You know, there it goes. I mean, you know, yeah, it probably is difficult for you in rural areas, but, you know, if you move to a city, you know, maybe that will be fine. I'm sick and tired of, you know, the way that we have, you know, softened the edges of like what's really necessary for us all to live free lives that are not mired in violence. You know, like, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. So one of the issues that, I mean, we're on an architectural forum here. So let's talk about buildings. Let's talk about housing. If I'm looking at some of my reporting over the past year, the fact that speaking to so many Black young people about the fact they are homeless because their families have kicked them out after they have come out or been found out, been outed. Why do you think that that isn't an issue that is really being sorted? Why are Black trans people, Black LGBT people who are younger still being failed by people in power? I think that at the end of the day, because we aren't part of nuclear family units once we're excommunicated, we aren't seen as being productive enough. You know, like, where's the offspring? Where's the new, like, what are you going to produce that's going to make me more money? And so, you know, being shunted away into these marginalized employment streams, you know, like being left to survival sex work and a whole range of other, you know, illicit career paths means that, you know, we then carry that stigma, you know, like so you're cut out, so you're not going to get employed, you're not going to get the same level of education, you're not going to be you know, brought into like a respectable professional space or social and family space. And so you're then going to be looked at as, you know, oh, you know, dirty, disgusting. Oh yeah, of course. Oh yeah, of course they caught that. Oh yeah, of course they did that. You know, so you're left. And I think what's happened is because we have, when you do find yourself in a hostel, when you do find yourself on a park bench, you only really do have each other. And so in our urban areas, it's been left to us to look after ourselves. And so in, like with the New York ballroom scene, for example, which is portrayed so lovingly in Pose, you know, when Blanca goes and hits Damien up off the park bench, she's not just looking to bring him into her ballroom house, she's literally looking to feed him. Do you know what I mean? So this, like, you know, this like, this black gay boy with like internalized homophobia who doesn't want to go home with, you know, this like black trans woman who like he doesn't really have a lot of respect for and stuff. She's the one who's taken it upon herself to look after him. And so we create families, we create our own families, and we occupy urban space in a way that is declarative, that is regenerative. We make things hot, we make it spicy, you know, we give them somewhere to want to go on a Saturday night, you know, a bit of edge and stuff. And yeah, like when we've created that space, when we created the heat, when we created the edge and stuff, you know, the Samantha Joneses from Sex and the City move in, and you know, then they get to like chucking slurs out of the window because,
oh gosh,
yeah, it's 2 a.m. in the morning.
Deep. Okay, why don't we talk about the current trans situation with the government?
Okay.
I just wondered for your thoughts around if these plans that have been widely reported, if they do actually go ahead. I think a lot of people don't understand the difference between the Gender Recognition Act and the Equality Act anyway. But I suppose if the current plans don't change to the Gender Recognition Act, and it's just as difficult to get a GRC, it's just as difficult to change your birth certificate, how is that going to impact you and people that you know?
Well, before we go into that, I'm just Googling. Hold on, because I don't want to forget anyone's names. Hold on.
Who are you going to add?
Christine Burns, that's it. Christine Burns, right? I learned through Trans Britain, her book, which really deserves so much more attention. But yeah, the scandal that occurred around April Ashley. Okay, so when April Ashley, you know, was, you know, like just too pretty for the, you know, like stealing the future of this like aristocratic man that she shacked up with, you know, that was what changed the legislation. So before then, apparently I think he went down to Somerset House, you know, and we had self-ID. We had it. Do you know what I mean? You pop down Somerset House, you know, you change your little name, change your little thing, and then, you know, you got your IDs and you was cool. But because of the ire of this like powerful man who could be, you know, he's part of the oligarchy, that was what got the ball rolling in legislating against trans lives. And so, you know, with successive governments and over the decades and stuff, the transphobia has just increased. And now we have to prove that we're not perverts and that we're safe and that we're not going to change our mind because, you know, we're so flappy and frivolous and ridiculous and stuff. So that's what the process is about. And I have to speak honestly as not only someone who comes from a lower middle class black family, but has also attached themselves to powerful, most of them white men, who have been able to afford me the educational prospects, but also the administrative assistance to get my papers, you know, to get my gender recognition certificate. and stuff. Like I've got girlfriends where it's just so far, it's a distant dream. Do you know what I mean? Like it costs so much. It's arduous. Like end to end, I think it was probably like 3 years. I think from like, going to my GP to receiving. No, I'm lying. No, it's way more. Literally. Oh my God. So yeah, 4.5. Yeah, 4.5 years from sitting down in my GP's office to then receiving gender recognition certificate, passport, DPAL, just across the board. And I'm a Virgo. So, there's no chance of me not getting everything ticked off. As soon as I got my passport, I was straight down Aspinall, sweetheart. Okay, I needed that travel wallet, okay? Navy blue, okay, with my initials, baby. So, yeah.
Done.
Really. But, you shouldn't need to be as bourgeois as me in order to get that. Guys, I needed so much help. The amount of times that I had the papers sent back to me, it was so arbitrary. And if I hadn't lived such a public life, I was able to send in supplementary evidence. Other people don't have that. Do you know what I mean? If you're living stealth, if you're trying to just keep, your little retail job, just like you play along or whatever, you don't really have those resources. The current system is cumbersome. The current system is damaging people's mental health. Do you think it's easy to look down and see your dead name? It's easy to see, your, the gender you assign. It's awful. It destroys your day. Even to the point where I remember when I was trying to get a phone upgrade. Yeah, I was trying to get a phone upgrade, and I hadn't updated my passport. And I went to EE, and in Islington, and the guy who was on the desk, he liked what he saw.
Of course.
Okay, it was all right. It was bobbing and stuff. This isn't anyone who I'm looking to get a ring off, but you know what I mean? I'm just having a nice day-to-day interaction. And then I realized, oh my God, I've got to show him my ID. Do you know what I mean? This man's not getting my number. Do you know what I mean? Not only is it unprofessional, do you know what I mean? I'm not, instigating this kind of Weinstein behavior. Do you know what I mean? But I've got to now expose myself in order to get what I need out of that situation.
And how did that feel in those situations when you had to do that?
It was, to explain what it did to my heart rate, where my heart was, and whatever. At the end of the day, I did show the passport and we were okay. But anyway, so it was cool. But at the same time, that moment just before, you go through that so often as a trans person, do you know what I mean? So the issue really is that, transphobes, and those, those who pretend to be scared of us, they want to make it harder to dissuade those who are, in earlier stages from even taking the plunge. You know what I mean? If it's that hard, do you know what I mean? It's stepping out your door is hard enough. Then you've got all of this bureaucratic rigmarole to get through. It's rough. But if we look at countries which have reverted back to self-ID, easily, I think, the Argentinas, Ireland, New Zealand, do you know what I mean? I haven't heard of anything atrocious happening there. Do you know what I mean? Kind of it's
yeah, man. It's unnecessary.
Warriors, you know what I mean? The queues at the till were ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? It's rains for 63 days without ceasing. Do you know what I mean? And it's so tired. We haven't, and also these arguments, the discursive arguments they use, they're never bloody fresh. Do you know what I mean? We have the same with gay marriage. Do you know what I mean? Before, gay marriage, it's going to destroy the family. Literally, the kids are going to be so confused. How will they go on? Now I'm going to have to explain to my child that two men love each other and are going to have that recognized down at the local government office? Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, do you know, it's boring. But yeah, they're pushing back. But you know, the march towards liberation is ongoing. We'll be all right.
That's a really good answer. Thank you for that. I'm going to dive into the Q&A. Let me dive into the Q&A box. Let's see if we've got anything interesting. We've got some good questions. Right. Okay.
Same.
Let's have right. Let's do a quick fire one. So we've got a question here about the experiences of Black LGBT people and how they are different or unique to the experiences of LGBT people in general. I'm guessing about LGBT people in general. We're talking about white people. So let's talk.
Asking the question. Even in asking the question, we are
let's talk about
crime of positing white people as ultimate human. That's hilarious.
So let's talk about that. Do you find it? Okay, first part. Where do you think the differences are between the more mainstream white LGBT view that a lot of people see and receive in media and advertising in whatever, and how do those experiences differ to the perspectives of the Black LGBT experience that we know?
That's too broad a question. What we're going to have to do, like in essence, what we need to have is a separate panel series, okay, in order to talk about
let's talk about coming out
and historically and whatever.
The Hollywood moment of coming out. How does that differ for a lot of the Black LGBT people that you know?
Okay. I think visibility and coming out, positing as, you know, the ultimate goal in LGBTQIA liberation. I'm guessing that came out of, you know, a post-Stonewall sort of, gay political organizing. Because, you know, what had come before with Sisters of Belitus, Sisters of Frieza, and the Mattachine Society, you know, the gays would go down to City Hall and they'd wear nice shirts and nice ties, and, you know, the lesbians in, like, you know, calf-length dresses and stuff, you know, hair and rollers and earrings, that it was very much about proving that we are just like you. We are, you know, we have this condition, but, you know, just accept us because, you know, we deserve to live next door and, you know, have eggs on toast for breakfast. And so what happened afterwards with Stonewall, you know, the, you know, trying to chuck all heteronormativity out of the movement, you know, commodifying and sexualizing, you know, like marginal gender expression, you know, the leather daddies and the dykes on bikes and everything, you know, that upsurgence was a necessarily one because it just advanced things so much further. And, you know, that was a very San Francisco, New York, London, Paris, very Western gay phenomena, right? So because that was also being done by those who were more privileged than others. So, you know, if you're middle class, if you're white, if you've got a decent salary and a decent job, it's easier for you to do that. You know, it's easier for you to come out and be visible if you know that you're going to be earning, you know, enough to pay your rent and eventually get a mortgage.
On the other side of that, yes.
Yeah. So, like, for those of us who are darker of skin, who, you know, aren't able-bodied and whatever, like, if you're not able to look after yourself, then you're going to have to compromise. You know, you're going to have to go stealth. You're going to have to, you know, remain in closets and until you're able to get to a point where you are strong enough to live independently.
And self-sustaining, yes.
And there are parallels there with, you know, the women's movement, with women in, you know, domestic violence situations and things. You know, if women don't have the financial independence to live their lives as they assert they need to live them, then they're more likely to have to stay in a harmful, violent situation to keep a roof over their head and their children's head. And so, yeah, basically these issues are what keep people from being able to come out and live visibly and live freely. Do I think that that's something that's essential to a racialized experience? Not so much. I think we have a tendency to, in a Western, with the Western perspective, to see that. But if you look at the Hijra of India, sister girls and brother boys of Aboriginal Australia, the Musa of Mexico, hella visible. Okay, literally, when these colonialists turned up, they weren't able to ignore them ones. Okay, literally and stuff. So I think I don't want to fall into the trap of saying, oh, well, of course it's so easy for white middle classes to be out. We've been out. Okay, we've been producing, and we've been part of our societies. I loved when reading Janet Mott's Redefining Realness about her growing up as a Black mixed race girl in Hawaii, talking about being Mahu, and having a role in society, in your community, in your society, that your mother would then be like, oh, well, then you can help me out with this. Do you know what I mean? As it goes, literally. Well, if this is your spirit, if this is really what's coming out of you, you need to get to laundry. Could you go
there? I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
And my mother's Jamaican, but my mom definitely did that with me, to the consternation of family members and the wider community and stuff. I had all sorts of opinions on what her next hairstyle should be, what we were gonna cook for Sunday dinner. She always said, "Oh, Kutch can really clean a bathroom." Oh, the shine that comes up on that. I don't want to get emotional, but I was really proud to be, able to be there for my mum in that way, and to be able to relate to her emotionally, and to have a relationship of emotional intimacy. She passed away in January, so that's why I'm so close to her.
Sorry about that, man.
Thank you, darling. But
do you feel quite lucky that you had that? I know from a lot of people that reach out to me from DC and my family, they feel like that.
Perfect. Yeah, it was far from perfect, but at least I had that. Absolutely, I'm very grateful that I have had that, and I think we are seeing so much more now. Parents who have access to how to raise their children properly because of colonialism, because of binary gender roles or whatever. Am I mute? No, I'm not mute. I'm fine. You can hear me. So yeah, we are able to speak to each other about how to raise our queer and trans children in loving homes. Zaya Wade meant so much to us as Black trans women. Seeing her being able to wear her little boots, being able to wear her little princess outfit, and there's a young trans girl on Instagram I follow called Rebecca. I broke down watching her go to a ballet class. So simple, but that's all it takes. And there's this it's season 1, so yeah, if you haven't caught up to it, whatever. But basically in season 1 in Pose, when Blanca buys Angel but a Christmas present of what she always wanted as a little girl. And I was ironing, but literally, I didn't need the steam that day. My tears were, I was ugly, crying, open window. My neighbors were literally incandescent with rage, I'm sure. It was something else. But I think what I got from watching that was being affirmed that what I'm doing is nurturing my inner child and giving myself the girlhood that I always deserved. I changed my middle name. I always felt like my first name was strong enough and gender neutral enough to Kate, so I was like cool with that. But my middle name used to be my father's name. But I changed my middle name to the name that he was going to give his firstborn daughter, because
Wow.
that's what he got.
Oh, that's such a nice one.
Like, there's something really revolutionary about what trans people do in terms of affirming ourselves, in that we give ourselves the experience, the existence, whatever that we were denied. And it's revolutionary in a child work. Transitioning is life-saving. Okay, I didn't want to be here before I transitioned. Okay, like, yeah, suicide was like, I just knew I wasn't going to make it unless I wasn't going to make it. And so that's what I feel is terrible about the TERFs and the transsiders and whatever. Like, if you want to stand in the way of someone's transition, it's genocidal. What you're saying is,
it's not your business.
It's not safe enough for you to transition. Like, you say you'd rather be dead.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I feel that. Jumping back into the box. Let's do. Okay, this should be a quick one. I want to get through as many of these as possible. What do you do to rest? How do you chill out?
I just rest. I literally, I'm a Virgo. I'm half Jamaican, half Zimbabwe. What job? Like, literally, so I've just got that voice in my head. I have to tell myself, no work today, no work, and I'll say that, and then I'm on social media, like in the DMs, responding to people as if that's not work. Yeah, of course, I can write that.
Yeah, the work doesn't stop.
Getting off that rota. I started meditating again recently. I mean, it's a pandemic, so I can't do what I used to, which was just go to the cinema and just blank out. But I can take myself to restaurants. I'm not one of them girls that always needs a man to do things. Like, I will take myself to the department store and buy myself the gift. I will go to the restaurant by myself. I've got a novel. Okay, so yeah.
I write books.
My best friend in that respect.
Yes.
It goes, and when my financial situation improves, I hope to take myself on a holiday. And I've never done that email thing where you just say, oh, sorry,
email thing. Oh, you do like that out of office.
I've never done that in my whole adult life. I've never done it, so I can't wait to just say, yeah, I'm not about That's what I'm looking forward to.
I'm excited for you to experience
I'm not
that
with
day.
my dog right now, but a dog is it was the best thing for my mental health.
Me too.
With my depression, everything. Because like, it doesn't matter how sad I am, she's got to have a number one and number two. I've got to get out. Do you know what I mean? And then, like, by the time you're out and you're in the park, you're surrounded by nature, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I do feel better. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm fine. I love my podcast as well. I love my audiobooks. I'm obsessed with anything like fashion related. I just listened to Andre Leon Talley's
okay.
where he's spilling all the tea, babe. Oh, poor Anna Winter. Poor Anna Winter, man. Her business is out there. Literally.
Wait, tell the people where they can find this.
Andre Leon Talley on Audible, read by him, literally, and he's got that cadence and that breath. And like, you can tell he's a French graduate, darling. Okay, the Champs-Élysées, at Carlsbad in Provence and stuff. Oh my God, got my life. I also like, Tina Brown's The Vanity Fair Diaries. That was so goading for me in my journalism career. I was like, wow, how it used to be an actual budget. Literally, wow, literally an actual, as it goes, the glamour. And I just downloaded Kate Williams, the historian I mentioned before, England's Mistress, because I'm researching Admiral Nelson's mistress, Emma Hamilton. Stuff. Yeah, I love my podcasts, and I listen to The Read religiously. Just
of course.
Through. survival. I love Marsha's plate. Yeah, Diamond Styles, Zia and Mia in Houston, Texas. 3 Black trans people who have such a wide breadth. And it's also not politically correct as well. I love that they go there. In terms, yeah, they're just so broad in their approach. So I'm grateful.
Got some good tips there.
Because it makes me feel connected. I'm less lonely. I still need human touch, obviously, and things, but I have a family that spans oceans, and so maybe it's me being Jamaican and Zimbabwean as well. Like when it comes to being Black, I think I just have such a diasporic understanding. Like these like diaspora wars that happens, they don't really mean much to me. I'm like, you guys are hilarious. Like, okay, cool. Except I will like take part. I think the only one to take part is the Jollof Wars. Because I have
the jollof rice wars are doing.
I have strong opinions. As it goes. But then again, I will like switch sides depending on who I'm dating.
Right. Next question. Because we are architecturally minded in this talk, queer spaces. If we look at queer spaces during the pandemic, a lot are not going to be reopening. They just do not have the funds in the bank to keep on going. Their rents have been raised up to ridiculous amounts, being in central parts of lots of different cities, especially in the UK. So the idea of queer spaces, the question is, are or were there enough spaces for Black LGBT people in the first place? And what characteristics would a safe space have for you? What can these policymakers do?
I don't know. I watched that Vice documentary about the death of lesbian bars across America. Like, I think that's so sad. Like, I remember going to Soho Pride back in the day. Remember when Soho had a Pride? That was cute. But yeah, I remember going to raving outside Candy Bar and stuff. And yeah, like there was a Candy Bar in Brighton as well. That went. I think like we need to have not just a nuanced discussion about gentrification. We need to have an educated understanding. It's not, you know, a little think piece is not going to cut it. We got to understand what's really going on here. We have to understand what is being mechanized against us, why our spaces are being taken away. I think I'm encouraged by the Tenderloin becoming a transgender district. I think that was a move started by Aria Saeed, Janetta Johnson, and Honey Mahogany. And so it's the Compton's Transgender Cultural District in San Francisco, and it's close to Compton's Cafeteria, which was you know, the venue for, you know, transgender queer liberation in the city. And everyone must watch Screaming Queens, which is on Amazon, and I think it might be on YouTube. But yeah, it's a documentary made by Susan Stryker about that moment and afterwards. No, I think what I'm encouraged about, why I'm encouraged about that specifically is that it's grassroots. And I think protecting you know, queer trans space in an urban environment is essential because they're going to get rid of us otherwise. And so you need to have, you know, strategy, policy, legislation in place to keep that protected. You know, we're not going to do that without rent control and without, you know, being involved in local government and everything. We need to understand where we need to be in order to stop these developers from taking everything away from us. In terms of what makes somewhere safe, I don't know, to be honest, because yeah, I would love to say, yeah, you know, there's been absolutely no expressions of violence in the Tenderloin ever since that's happened. Like, you know, I was, and also it's very much about possibility as well. Can we be real? You know,
I was gonna go on to that.
Like,
yes.
Come on, let's be. I mean, I lived in Brighton for a long while, and you know, I put so much effort into my transition, into doing everything that I could in order to stop the violence. And you know, the complex PTSD I have means that even in the silence, even in the breeze or whatever, I'm still, I'm always looking. So we are collectively traumatized as a community, first and foremost. But those of us who are able to pass as cisgender, those of us who are able to pass as straight, have easier lives. It's not hurting anyone, not coming for you, boo. Like, it's all right, your life still has meaning. Do you know what I mean? Oh God, it's been so hard. I understand, that's great. But for me, as someone who went from someone who's very visibly queer, very visibly gender non-conforming, very visibly trans, to now having put so much effort into not being that, the reason was because I wanted to be loved. I wanted a relationship, and these men were not dating me unless you were possible, but that's just the tea. Like, there's nothing fresh and new about that. But I also just wanted to be able to go to the supermarket. I also wanted to go to the bookshop. I wanted to walk my dog in peace.
Yeah.
And so I am able to do that without having, you know, F word, the D word, whatever, like, thrown at me. Like, I'm constantly sexually harassed, nevertheless. Do you know what I mean? So it's, to an extent, this is not just about, you know, these reified, marginalized groups. This is about all of us. You know what I mean? Like, women, is so, we can't go anywhere without being left alone, without having our bodies and our personal space violated daily. You know, and that was also something that occurred before transition. Okay, so like, I don't think that it's just those who are assigned female at birth. I think that this is something, you know, we live in a very patriarchal society, so because it's so femphobic, so queerphobic, if you're anything but a cisgender male, then you are going to be sexually harassed. That's just going to be part of your life. It's also not safe for cis straight males either. So, you know, ending violence, you know, is everybody's concern. And how we do that, I mean, I'm just going to tell everyone to read Black Feminist again, aren't I? Do you know what I mean? As it goes, they're doing the work. Do you know what I mean? If we could get back to the Combahee Rebel Collective, do you know what I mean? If we could, you know, talk about Barbara Smith and Kimberly Crenshaw and Bell Hooks and Angela Davis, and, you know, if we could do that, if we could do the reading, that'd be great.
That'd be great. Yes. That's a good question to go into that next, actually, is you've got a very powerful voice. Very powerful voice. You've got a platform, you've got a voice, you're out there making change and making impact. How did you find...
Yes.
Oh, you're so welcome. How did you find that comfort, and how did you find your voice? The question here is around, I'm guessing it's from a Black LGBT person who is scared to speak up.
Listen, I mean, you should be scared. Let's be real. I'm sorry. So I know I should put a silver lining around that and whatever. It's not safe. The world is not safe. Okay. At the end of the day, I suffered violence, homelessness. Like, I was excommunicated. There's so many of my family members in my community who no longer speak to me. That's not a little thing. Okay. You lose. Okay. You're going to come out. You're going to lose some friends. People are going to be vile to you. That's the reality. That's why it needs to change. In terms of finding my voice, I really struggle with that. I shouldn't have done that, so I'll take that back. But yes. I'm a reader. Okay, so like, yeah, I grew up in a house full of books. My parents took Pan-Africanism so seriously. Like, we had every book, like whether that was Marcus Garvey, James Baldwin, Zora Neale Hurston, Dorothy West, Chinua Achebe, like, you know, C.L.R. James. This I just grew up with these authors in my home, so I understood that there were other worlds. The world wasn't really cut off for me in the same way. And like I was saying, I was lower middle class, so we were able to travel. We were able to go back to their home countries, able to go back to Jamaica and Zimbabwe, but also holidays in Madeira and Spain and Suffolk. That was one of our best, actually. Yeah, just beyond Bury St. That's great. So in terms of finding my voice, I was surrounded by so many other voices that it didn't really occur to me that I needed to put effort into affirming my own. Like, public speaking came quite naturally because, You just, when you're reading that much, it's just, you know, you and you're someone
informed,
else's
you're
voice.
ready.
Do you know what I mean? So you'd have, so, you know, I'd spend, you know, like 3 weeks like trying to speak like Alice Walker, and I spent another, you know, 6 months like reading everything Toni Morrison said, and then now I'm Isabel Allende and stuff. So, you know, I was able to, like, you know, try it. I just realized that I'm mentioning all these women because that was also pre-transition. I needed that. Do you know what I mean? I needed women's voices in order to firm my own and stuff. So yeah, I lived through them. Not even vicarious, I just lived through them. And then when I became homeless myself at the age of 17, when I came out, the strength that and the resilience that required, you know, pain was so acute, and I can go back to that point, that pain at any time. It's not something that I can wash off. I mean, no, I can look after myself in the way that I deserve, but I'll never forget what it was like to have all of one's worst fears confirmed. And in that abandonment, you know, going to the benefits office and having to go, you know, to food banks and ever, like, all that you're left with is personality and politeness. You know, I'm from North London. You know, the dinner ladies at my sixth form, they would give me 2 free dinner tickets because they knew that I was made homeless. They didn't have to do that. And they didn't make me feel away. Do you know what I mean? It was very surreptitious. It was really quiet. But they saw me. And so they told me to, you know, take a sandwich and just put the other one in your bag. And stuff. And that's why I hate when people like paint, you know, working classes as being like, you know, less educated and whatever. Like, if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it was, you know, it's as small as, you know, someone giving you a sandwich or, you know, giving you a £5 and whatever. It's that what really gave you through, that really got me through. And so there was no chance of me, after having received that much kindness and that much generosity, there was no chance of me diminishing myself. I had to make myself worthy. I had to live up to my name. I had to fulfill my purpose. It's not just for me, you know, like, my mum fought so hard for me to get into, you know, the right secondary schools, and, you know, even like mashing up carrot and cauliflower and, you know, all the Cersei tea and the cod liver oils and the whatevers, you know, like, that's what really keeps me going. You know, when I'm at the 3rd flight of stairs after a long day and I've been rejected, I've got no money left and whatever, like, just before I climbed that last step, that's when I remember her. Like, I was made strong in order to face life. So yeah, that's where my voice comes from, really.
That was a great answer. Thank you for sharing some of your trauma as well. I know I hate talking about my own personal trauma, but thank you for sharing. I really, really, really appreciate it. I'm going to take a couple more questions. I'm going to go on for the next like 5 minutes, and then we will wrap. Let's have a look through these. Okay, this is an interesting one. How can we design for trans-inclusive spaces, e.g. WCs, changing rooms, and gendered spaces?
Don't know, don't care. So sorry. I just really feel at the end of the day, I know that question is coming from a great place, but you have sociologists, anthropologists, academics, like, there's so many people out there who can answer that question for you in a nice, clean and concise way. At the end of the day, for me, going into changing rooms, bathrooms, gendered spaces was very much dependent on being a binary transsexual woman. Okay, so it's like, at the end of the day, I had a goal. Okay, and my goal was to become passable. And once I became passable, then I felt comfortable going into those spaces.
Yeah.
For those who are non-binary, those who are genderqueer, those who don't want to fit into a binary, those who cannot fit into a binary, that's where your concern should be, you know?
Yeah, those who don't pass, especially.
Creation of gender neutral spaces, or in those gender spaces, like, you know, how to like stop the gender policing. Do you know what I mean? That's what security guards do. Do you know what I mean? That's what is compelling, you know, these butch lesbians who have to, like, you know, take out their ID to prove that, you know, they're assigned female at birth. You know, that's what really scares me about what's being proposed. I'm fine. Okay, literally. And it comes to me, okay, I've got the hyaluronic acid, I've got the salicylic acid, boo. I've got the Estee Lauder. Okay, I've got the outfits. Okay, literally, I'm at Marks and Spencer's getting every kind of shift dress possible. All right, so it's not that much of an issue for me anymore. I feel like I'll be fine. And if I don't think I'm going to be fine, do you know what I'm going to do? Move. Like, I don't need to stay. I grew up like hearing the worst of what my parents went through when they arrived, like, you know, as part of Windrush generation, you know, go home, right, you know, whatever. And also I still hear it, you know, like in, you know, these television presenters, you know, he got like an eloquent black broadcaster like Afua Hash, you know, and so they'll, you know, they'll be talking to him, whatever, you know, if you're not comfortable here, why don't you leave? You know, that snide, you know, at the end of the day, like, my response to that has always been,
well, all right.
This with my Celine bag, baby. Like, no, bye. Literally, I don't need to stay down here with your cheese and pickle smelling breath. Like, I'll go. Okay, don't come for me. Global citizen, baby. Okay, Afropolitan. Don't come for me. Afro P, like, I'm about. Literally, but then, again, I'm speaking, and that's from a privileged class perspective. Not all of us do have that option and stuff.
But I suppose where there's a will, there's a way. I think there's if you need to escape a situation, then but there are ways.
With the anti-trans backlash that are coming, those who have the means, the money, and the resource and whatever are going to leave, and those that are left behind are going to be the ones who are poorer and less privileged. And that is coming. I don't feel like people understand. I remember speaking about this in 2017, about how scared I was about what they're proposing and stuff. They're changing policy. Okay, they're changing things. You know what I mean? This is not a little thing. They're not gonna stop until we're dead. I don't play. I know when they want me dead. They want me dead. They don't want me to exist. It's not a little thing and stuff. And like, I also don't feel like it's just about the fact that I'm sleeping with their husbands. It's also like, am I to lie?
Where's that?
It's not just about that. It's about the fact that anyone who sits outside of the gender binary makes people queasy. They're nauseated at the thought of my existence. And I loved that Netflix documentary Disclosure, because it so expertly portrays the agenda that they've had for centuries. Do you know what I mean? Like, to line it up, you know, make them seem perverted, dangerous, and vomit-inducing. You know, those emojis that you know, that visibly queer and trans people get under their posts, you know, all those vomit emojis, that's coming from a place. That's coming from Ace Ventura. That's coming from The Crying Game. Okay, like, this is not a little thing. Like, our art and the culture we produce, it creates a reaction. And so if it's coming from a transphobic place, for me, it's genocidal.
Okay, final question I'm going to put forward is going to be something useful for those working in these architecturally fabulous places. The question is, in a predominantly white male cis-led practice where we really want to be inclusive and diversified, we're asking ourselves why anyone from a marginalized background would want to join when they look up a practice where they can't see someone from their background running the company. I'll probably add on to that, or even being on the board or management of a company. And they've asked, what can we do to combat this?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's disingenuous to ask that if you're in a position of power. Like, you don't want to, let's be real, like, you don't want to give up the power. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like these diversity and inclusion, they're stalling. It's
Yeah.
stalling. Do you know what I mean? Oh, you know, it's not just about having one of us on the board, you know, in a diversity role, is it? Do you know what I mean? Okay, you do that for now, then what? Do you know what I mean? I'll tell you how many unconscious bias trainings are we going to have until we realize that this is actually just making people money. You don't want us in your schools, you don't want us in your institutions, whatever. You have to confront that fear in yourselves. I don't feel like we're really going to get there until people want to confront whiteness, to be honest, unless you're willing to speak about the way that you have buried any discourse around white racialization, what it means to be white in 2020. Okay, unless we're ready to sit down and have like very uncomfortable conversations about what it means to be white in modern society, irrespective of your class background, irrespective of your gender, if we're able to zero in on having conversations around whiteness. And, you know, if it makes you uncomfortable, then, you know, of course, you know, find your Jane Elliott's and, you know, your Robin DiAngelo's and whatever. If you need to hear it from them, that's fine. But like, I find it disingenuous. Like, I don't feel they want us in the future. Like, when these sci-fi programs come out and when we see these, you know, all white fashion weeks and whatever, I just feel like it's quite clear they just don't want us in the future unless we're in a contained role where we don't rock the boat and we're able to maintain the current hierarchy. What can we do to change that hierarchy? To be honest, I think you have to see the flaws within the white supremacist system for yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, can you have integrity? You know, if what you've gotten hasn't been received in a meritocratic way, can you really trust that you're smart enough, that you're big enough? You know, I'm paraphrasing what Toni Morrison said, by the way. This is not me. I'm just saying, you know, does the current system make you feel nice? Does it feel nice to look at that inequality and think, yeah, well, at least I'm fine? Because you know, things mutate. I can only speak about it from my subject position. And whilst as a trans woman I can say, yeah, I definitely did what I could to become as passable as possible, when I hear of a visibly trans person telling me what they faced on the street, I don't feel great. Do you know what I mean? Like, I do feel like I feel a sense of relief. I'm glad that's not happening to me today. Oh God, that used to be my everyday existence. I'm glad that's not me now. Do you know what I mean? And I can run away from it, but not for long. Because it's only a little moment, you know, it's only, you know, a tweet. It's only a passing comment friend out of a car that brings me right back to that place. You know, like, I feel like it's annoying because I don't feel like it's on the marginalized to, like, you know, a test for our humanity. I don't lose sight of, you know, my equality with another human. Like, I don't, and I'm also very proud of us for having gone through particular oppressions and, you know, coming out the other sides of it. You know, we talk about forgiveness so much as if, like, we aren't forgiving. Like, you know, we are, like, historically, like, we are, you know, like, we are so adamant that we have to suppress the rage in fear that it's going to consume us. And I am so empowered by Kelechi Okafor, who has been so encouraging of us releasing that anger, and Dr. Brittany Cooper, who says that their anger it shouldn't live in the Black body. It's killing us. Okay, like, us swallowing that anger, us looking away, us accepting that jar, us, you know, ignoring that thing that our partner said, you know, whatever, like, that it's killing us. It's leading to our, you know, our bodies, like, our autoimmune diseases and whatever. Like, it's not, this isn't fresh. This isn't new. Like, there are studies that are clearly showing the impact of racism on the body, you know. And like for me as a Black trans woman, to like, so can we talk about the impact of racism, misogyny, and transphobia on my physiological body? You know, I went to the doctor the other day, and it was one of the first experiences I've had where I just wasn't super conscious of my transness. Do you know what I mean? They were like, you know, looking in my ear and checking my thing or whatever, but it was at the end. I was like, what was different about that? And it was, my difference is on show. It was a full body exam. So, you know, like there was, you know, like there are physiological differences about my body, but I felt whole. I didn't feel like my womanhood was in question. I didn't feel like my trans, do you know what I mean? I felt like a whole human being being looked at. She wanted to assess my health as a human. And I think like what's keeping people from, you know, seeing other people's humanity is like just the fact that we have this inculcated into us. You know, the reason that we fight so hard against people being colorblind is because like I am a dark-skinned Black woman, do you know what I mean? I'm not colorblind. Like literally, I don't.
As hard as we may try.
Literally, I see that like there's no, it's not about that. I don't necessarily need you to say, you know, I don't even see you as Black. And, you know, it's funny, you know, when I was reading this, you know, I was relating it and I was thinking, gosh, you know, yeah, she's Black, but, you know, I really appreciated this story. I think that's so far away from where we need to be. I want you to love my difference. I want you to see my differences and to come and join in them with me and get to a point where we have discussed the pain to such an extent that the nuanced, personal, idiosyncratic jokes can really happen because we've healed past the pain. And I say that as someone who's had relationships with a wide range of men, where I've just been held. Do you know what I mean? Where I've been able to speak about what happened to me when I was 3. You know, what happened to me when I applied for that job. You know, what happened to me when I had, you know, the 107th job application returned to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unless you're able to sit with someone and hold them in their pain, you're not going to get to that point where you can really invite them into space where you can like work together, grow together, love each other, and whatever. Like the hierarchy, the kyriarchy, is it? The imperialist, capitalist, white supremacist, patriarchy, whatever. Like if you really want to undo that, buckle up, you know, yippee-ki-yay. Okay, like it's not a quick panel sort of situation. Do you know what I mean? This is decades long. It's a slow slog of a march, and most of the work you do, you're not going to get any praise for. So literally, so, you know, there aren't any like cookies, but you know, there's some like cereal bars that you can make yourself, okay, with some agave syrup or whatever. So, but you're used to doing the work and not getting the praise. How about that?
Wow. Well, Kuchenga, thank you so much. That was deep.
I had a nap today, could you tell?
You were ready. You came prepared and ready for this conversation. I feel blessed by it. I feel like I can just go through, transcribe this. I'll get my own book deal off the back of it. Like I'm ready. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ben. I have so much love for you. I'm so proud of you. Literally, I see you plugging away, boo-boo.
Oh, two North London peeps out here doing their thing in these LGBT spaces. There we go. Well, again, thank you so much to all of our viewers. Thank you for watching. Thank you everyone for attending the Architecture LGBT Plus conversation on LGBT Plus Black Lives Matter. Just a note from Tom, you can follow Architecture LGBT Plus on social media and sign up to the mailing list for more information as they continue the conversation throughout the year. We've got 3.5 hours left of Pride Month. Happy Pride Month. And thank you very much and see you later. Peace. Bye. Bye.
Bye.